Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 65. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Happy Monday to you, Steelers Nation. An early Merry Christmas to you as well. Unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they really can't say the same, though we having really a blue Christmas. They lose to the Saints 31-28, and now their playoff hopes partially rest on, dare I say it, the Cleveland Browns. Dave, I have no idea how to start this show, even more than usual. They had the chance and they blew it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here for sure. Yeah. From this Saints game, and you just can't help but think back in totality right now, and especially when the offense played the role in turning the football over in this one as well too, and we're going to get to a lot of this, but. You keep going back to this defense. This defense just can't get a stop, or there's no trust in this defense being able to get a stop when the game's on the line. And I think that has now kind of, because of that, it's influenced a few decisions here with maybe the fake punt, against the Saints there or whatnot. You have Tomlin showing too much faith in the defense a couple of weeks ago against the Oakland Raiders. But man, take your pick of the last, I don't know, just, three losses or whatnot, and then throw in the tie against Cleveland that should have never happened to start the season. And you can pick or choose whatever you want, mix and match, and the Steelers should be in the playoffs. This is too good of an offensive team, to not be in the playoffs. This team can beat anybody offensively. The problem is defend. They're also good enough. They're not good enough to beat a lot of teams either. We've seen that. So really a helter-skelter kind of Steelers team this year, and now, we all become Baker Mayfield fans at this point, and they have to beat the Bengals first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's hope Baker Mayfield's feeling dangerous, and I think that helter-skelter is probably a good way to describe not only this year's team, though I think it's more so in 2018, but really the last 5 years. Even in better seasons, you still felt this inconsistency. But you're totally right. This team is good enough to be in the playoffs. It's a shame that they aren't. And I wrote the article today for Steelers Depot. We can blame the refs, and that's probably a good kind of jumping off point for this conversation. But to me, end of the day, Steelers only have themselves to blame, not only for this loss, but the whole, basically since November, losing 4 of their last 5, losing to Baltimore in Week 4, tying against Cleveland, getting yourselves in the big hole versus KC. On the whole, all things within their control, big picture, and the Steelers have just failed to close out games. But you want to start with the refs, because I know that's going to be the number one talking point probably everywhere around the water cooler today.
Yeah, I assume that there are a lot of water cooler conversations. I'm sure there's things going to be written blaming the refs for the Steelers' loss. And look, were there bad, awful calls in this game? Absolutely, there were. Even so, you give up a 3rd and 20 after that, on the final drive. I wrote about, and people kind of said, you're getting ahead of yourself writing about Craig Wolfstead crew last week, and the imbalance of the amount of calls that his crew has had in favor of the home team and all like that. We covered all that. It wasn't so much it wasn't the imbalance of calls, because when you look at the balance at the end of the game, there was actually more called on the Saints than there were the Steelers in this one. But when you look at the type and the magnitude, and I provided a list in that post of the more popular or the what the type of penalties that he's called the most this year, and pass interference obviously was right up there near the top. So it made you kind of wonder if this was going to be one of those games where tightly called coverage wise, and it was, and a little bit too much. I mean the early one to on Joe Hayden, I think we both agree that was just that was a ridiculous call.
No, it was one of the worst calls of the season. It's right up there with that, Chargers false start, both in the Steelers game and the Chargers Browns game back early in the season. There's no defending the refs. They were bad. I just can't use that as the excuse for the entire loss and why the Steelers are in the position they are currently in.
Now, some of the holds I think were evident. The horse collar tackle, some of these things, were obviously rightly called. And then I guess we get down into late in the game there on the, what was it, the what down was the final pass interference there in the fourth quarter?
Fourth and 2, right after the 2-minute warning.
Right. On that one, I need to go back and try to zoom off of the line initially too. Does Joe Hayden snatch him down first? Snatch Michael Thomas down?
Yeah, he got him by the jersey. That was a good call, I thought.
But I mean, does he snatch him right off the line first, and even before getting the arm around?
He grabbed him as Thomas was trying to break on a slant and kind of pulled him forward, and then was more contact as the ball was in the air. The only question on that play to me is if the ball was tipped. I know Tuitt was adamant that it was. You posted some good clips of it, zoomed in and slowed down. It's really hard to tell.
I thought the call on Hayden was right, and then it does become was the ball tipped ahead of that? Now didn't who was it? Gene. I think the talk is did the tip happen before the hold? If assuming it was tipped, did it happen before the hold? Here I found it right here from Gene Sterator. He says the play in Pittsburgh, New Orleans was defensive holding that evolved into pass interference. In scenarios like this, the officials will enforce the pass interference penalty as holding continued while the pass was in the air. Did you grab it? Did you get all that?
Yeah. So even if it was tipped, they still could have called holding, is what he's trying to say.
Let me read it again. This play in Pittsburgh versus Saints was defensive holding that evolved into pass interference. In scenarios like this, the officials will enforce the pass interference penalty as the holding continued while the pass was in the air.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. I don't. Am I supposed to have an issue with it?
No, I'm just asking. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if it's holding and then the ball's in the air and they call PI, and again, it's just a question of if Tuitt tipped it, and like I said, it's really, really close.
And I don't see how anybody in their right mind can tell me that they definitely see the ball get tipped. From the camera angles that we have, I don't see how someone can definitively, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, tell me that they saw. Now you see the ball wobble, but I mean you see some perfect, you see balls wobble coming out with a tight spiral, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think if you got math involved here with the velocity and it looks more like an optical illusion. I'm willing to bet that ball's past him to its arm rather quick, but we're only going by really that one angle because you can't see anything from the line, from the regular TV play level angle and all. Maybe we'll see something when the All-22 comes out later today. Now here's what Dean Blandino wrote on Twitter about this as well too. He says, getting caught up on the game tonight, play involving tip pass and pass interference is reviewable. Can look at whether pass was tipped and when it was tipped in relation to contact. Looked more like holding prior to the pass, but they were right to allow the challenge. Now, here's the thing. The thing was under 2 minutes, right?
Yes, it was the first play after the 2-minute warning.
All right, so I mean, Tomlin can't challenge that even if he wants to.
Yep, it's a booth review. And I think they did review it. I want to say it was Ray Fittipaldo. Someone on the beat tweeted out that Al Riveron had looked at it and determined that there was no tip.
And here's what Ray Fittipaldo from the Post-Gazette tweeted. He said, Al Riveron reviewed the apparent tip pass on the Joe Hayden pass interference call on 4th and 2 late in the game. He determined the ball was not tipped, according to a source. Now, that according to a source is, I guess he got this from another report or whatnot. I don't know. He says, more on the Riveron decision, it was determined that there was no need to stop the game to review the play. So there you go. Personally, like I said, I don't see how anybody can tell me in the right mind that they see that ball get tipped there. They see a ball wobble, but they don't see it tip. Like I said, we'll see. And once again, if it's, where did that happen in relation to the hold or the pass interference on that? So I'm not so upset about that. I would be kind of more upset about the call on Morgan Burnett, maybe, on the pass interference. Where was that? In the fourth quarter, I think. But I'd be maybe more upset with that call.
They called a really tight game. Now, I thought the Burnett PI was the right call, but it's just one of those situations where you go, what do you want the DB to do there? I mean, he's there a fraction of a second early, and you get called for it. So, like I said, I thought the refs were pretty poor. The Hayden PI, the first one was worst call, one of the worst calls of the season. But I think that's the only call, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, that Hayden PI was the only, clearly terrible call from the officials. It's 100%. Just no explanation for it. And if you're blaming the refs for one play in the first quarter, I know how big of a play it was. If you're going to blame the refs for the entire game for that, when the Steelers took the lead and they survived it, I disagree.
Yeah, I think.
Were there any other super egregious? I know there's some questionable ones, and again, I'm not trying to defend the refs here; they were bad. But was that was the only just straight up terrible call? Am I wrong on that?
Right. Yeah, I think from what I remember and what I've gone back through this morning. Okay, you had the horse collar penalty was the first one on the Saints after the interception. Then you had the Joe Hayden pass interference in the end zone. That was the bad one. You have the Knicks offensive holding on the kickoff. After that, you have the Eli Apple defensive pass interference that was the pass over to the left-hand side on Juju trying to come back to the ball, I think.
Yep.
Let's see, what else do we have? The Burnett pass interference on, which one was that? That was 2nd and 10. That was on Watson. That was the Watson one. Then you have the illegal touching penalty. Oh, Lord, we got a lot to unpack in this one.
Yep.
Make a note of that one. The Eli Apple defensive pass interference on Juju, I think, in the end zone. Then the Hayden defensive offsides on the field goal. The Pouncey ineligible downfield. Then you had the Ted Ginn false start. Then you had the Pete offensive holding where he just dragged Cameron Hayward down. The Joe Hayden pass interference with less than 2 minutes left. The Ramczyk offensive holding, maybe that was was that the one where he grabbed? I'm losing track of the holding calls here. And then I think that's it. I mean, I think the early one on Hayden was the one where you were really scratching, your head, on the call.
Same. And I know there's a couple potential false starts if they missed, so we can go through that whole, rigmarole again. But again, like I said, you're up 28-24, 10 minutes left. You're in field goal range. You're on the edge of it. You fumble it away. It's a 3rd and 20. You can't get a stop. You give it the touchdown. Then you're driving. You're almost in field goal range. You fumble it again with Juju. Totally things within Steelers' control. Totally plays that have to be made or not made. And that's why I put, the loss on the Steelers and again, why the Steelers are in this position overall, because you lose to Denver, you blow a lead to LA, you lose to Oakland, you tie Cleveland week 1. all things, we can't blame the refs for everything here. Steelers have their own big problems and have to be fixed, and we all knew about it coming into today, and just because of one bad call doesn't change that script for me.
After they converted that 4th and 15, did you think they were going to – you thought at worst they were going to tie the game, didn't you?
Wait, which one? 4th and 15?
Yeah, after the Steelers, after the final drive, after the after the Tony toe tap, did you think they were going to win the game at that point?
I didn't think that. I thought they were going to at least have a chance for a field goal,
right?
And we'd see what happened. And Boswell was kicking well, so I figured you at least had. I thought maybe there was a chance for a touchdown because I thought you'd gotten down the field with some time left, but I thought at least set yourself up for a 50-yard field goal try.
What did you think about the call on Vance McDonald?
Help me out.
The one before the fumble.
It was the right call. The flag on it, yeah. I thought they could have called PI on it instead of illegal contact.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was more PI, but again, I'm not going to get into the nuances too much of this versus that. At least it was a flag.
All right, are they? I mean, the offense has these wide receivers now have all these advantages. It's no wonder Joe Hayden was as upset as he was after the game, and all like that. But man, they want some score, and they want going up and down the field sometimes, and they're getting it. And man, this just from I'm obviously a lot older than you. This isn't the same NFL that I grew up with.
Yep, it was not the same NFL as 10 years ago.
No.
It's changed pretty rapidly. So I don't know where you want to go with this. I guess we can talk about more end game.
Yeah, let's go more end game stuff here. The fake punt. I kind of my initial reaction to this was, man, this is a very easy results biased play, almost like the fake field goal touchdown a couple games ago. If it works, oh my God, what a call! What a gutsy decision that was. If it doesn't, what the hell is he doing? Move the team to Albuquerque, that kind of thing.
So when's the team go to Albuquerque?
Yeah,
because that's where we're at.
Really. Since then, I kind of went back in my mind. The fake punt in the Georgia. What game was it? Georgia, Alabama?
Georgia-Bama game, Kirby Smart.
Where is the down and distance that such a play should be called? Correct me if I'm wrong. The Georgia play was something like 4th and 6 or 4th and 7. And I think when I look back and all that's going on, with Jordan Dangerfield motioning out to you didn't want to take your eyes off the screen because you thought, what the heck's going on here, and then obviously the direct snap to Nix and to Rudd. Right, to me, I'd rather get somebody in space on a fake punt. I think, unless it's a situation where when you're dealing with 4th and 1 and 4th and 2. Trying to ask a guy to go up the middle to get 5 or 6 yards is quite a lot. There's just so much stuff that I think can go wrong. And bless Rosie's heart, he thought he got it. But
yeah, he tried. It was a great effort. It was a second and third effort to even get a yard close. I didn't like the call. I know it's really hard to say that and pretend like I'm being sincere because it didn't work, and you can make the argument if it does work, then I might say that I love the call. But when it was happening, because you saw Dangerfield motion out, and I'm literally just going to my TV, like, what is going on? Don't run a fake here. As Ozzy's running the fake, I'm shouting at my TV, no, this is a terrible idea. 4th and 5 is just too far. I think the element of surprise that a fake punt gives you 2 to 3 yards. I don't think it gives you 5 yards. So unless you have it perfect, it has a high chance of not working out. And I thought, you can try to pin these guys back, and I think your defense was getting some stops. It only allowed a touchdown in the second half, up to that point. And, it just takes one penalty, one sack, one miscue by the offense to get in a really good situation to get the stop. So, again, I know, you like you said, it's a hindsight thing, and it's impossible for people to really talk about it because, we're all based off of the result. But sincerely, I thought it was a bad decision.
They during the second half, the Saints, of course, open up with, and you want to talk about a kind of a back-breaking drive, if you will. They went 11-7 for 75 for a touchdown to open up the second half, and that on the heels of, I mean, like I said, there's so many layers in this thing. You scored the touchdown with 40 seconds left offensively.
Yep. That's where I was going to go.
And then you allow them to march right down the field. How do you let Kamara get that loose on you? To get them in field goal range like that. I mean, it really was a kick in the gut, not only from the touchdown on, from the touchdown on, because then you allow them to go all the way down and kick a field goal and answer you. And then, of course, they're getting the ball back first to open the second half, and then you allow them to go 11-75 for a touchdown on that drive. And to me, that was such a crushing sequence, right there to end the first half and to open the second half. And at that point, you're really thinking, man, this thing's really gotten away from them. And if the Steelers don't answer that touchdown with a touchdown, you're just thinking that this is that gif of that Porsche where the wheels just go all the way off. Now, to their credit, they did, answer back-to-back touchdowns and all. But to me, that was a big segment. But I guess where I'm getting to is coming out of that 11-play, 75-yard drive, the defense did buckle down a little bit. You held them to 4 plays, I think -2 net yards in that sequence. They have to punt. And then, like I said, you go touchdown, and then then they end up having to go 3 and out, I think, for a total 8 yards, and then punting at that point. So, at that point, you're thinking, okay, we're doing what we want to do. Now, you obviously would have liked the scene after they get the ball back at that next point to go down and put it down their throats again. But obviously that's when the second and what was the call? It was 3rd and 2, and Stephen Ridley's in the game, and I understand it's 2-down territory, right? Possibly, but why? You're throwing the ball so damn well in that point that it's only 2 yards. Just throw the damn football there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had no problem spreading the football out, throwing in goal to go situations, short yard situations. Give the ball to your playmakers, not Stephen Ridley.
Not a guy that touches the football 50 times a season.
If that.
Yeah. If that. How many touches does he have on the season now?
He's got like 27. I think.
All right, well, there you go. A key portion in the game, a 3rd and 2, and you're giving it to a guy that doesn't touch the football a lot.
And I thought Feeder called a really good game overall, but that's certainly one call that I'm sure he'd like to have back. And then we know Ridley's fumble history is extensive. That's kind of got him partially run out of New England, that and the injury, and has had him bounce around the league, and that's his second fumble this year. So I promise that's the last down you've ever seen Steve Ridley play in a Steelers uniform, and maybe his last down in the NFL.
And we talked about ahead of, during the week, how good this Saints defense is at especially their defensive backs at punching the football out. And they did it.
Yep.
They did it twice. And you want to talk about differences in seasons sometimes in net turnover differential and stuff like that. So, a category where the Steelers have been absolutely awful at this year. They can't get the turnover when they really, if they're getting it, they're getting in their own end zone. Now to credit to Sean Davis, he did get up and get some yards back on that early one by Tayshaun Hill and all. But man, you want to talk about key moments of the game and getting a turnover that really changes complexion of the game. This Steelers defense just has not been able to do that this season. And boy, the Saints in the last 3, 4, 5 games or what have you, those defensive backs have been knocking that football out right and left. And yeah, I mean, as soon as they fumbled and you give them that short field, you're thinking, oh no. But to the defense's credit, and somewhere I think in that second half, I tweeted out, boy, the Steelers going to have to steal a possession here. You just felt like they're going to have to steal a possession, and they get the blocked field goal.
Yeah.
You're thinking, all right, well, there's your stolen possession right there. And then you answer that stolen possession with, going 4 and out, with a fake punt in there.
So, yeah, like I said, you can talk about the refs all day, and I'm right there with it. They were bad. I'm just talking, obviously, largely about the Steelers Nation here. But you have the fake punt, at that debacle, the Ridley fumble, the Juju fumble, the 3rd and 20, the 4th and 2, the touchdown. I mean, you can point to 10 other plays in this game. The end of the half stuff where you give up that drive to let the Saints have 3. You can point to 10 other things that don't have a darn thing to do with the officials. That's why the Steelers lost this game. And they are minus 10 in turnover ratio this year. They're 28th overall. They're next to the Jets, the Bills, the Cardinals, the Jaguars, the Bucks, the 49ers. Those are not good teams. And so you want to point to why the Steelers are where they are. It's because they're minus 10 in turnover ratio. They turn the ball over too much offensively, and they don't create enough splash defensively.
And, in these close games this year, they're something like 5-1 or something in final possession games?
5-1? What do you mean?
5-1 or something.
No, they're bad in one possession games this year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They're a lot worse than they were last year.
Yeah, I forget what the exact number is, but this is a team that generally has been able to close out games. You think about all the game-winning kicks that Chris Boswell had last year and the year before, and the close games you're able to finish out. You did it against New England, I get that, but that consistency really has not been there. So that's been a huge issue for this team.
And it's because your defense can't get stops and then you end up relying too much on the offense to win games for you.
Yep. Again, they are I'm looking at the numbers now. They're 7th in giveaways with 25, and they are tied for 25th in takeaways with 15. And those are bad numbers on each side of the coin.
Right, absolutely. All right, where to from here? We went into this game, or I wrote ahead of this game in the 5 keys that I would like to see some 5 wides in this. We got that early. The other thing, boy, and I wrote a whole article about this as well too. Be judicious when you blitz Drew Brees. I mean, this guy, this isn't his first rodeo. He uses the cadence so well to make you declare. And so many times early in this game, especially with the defensive backs and Mike Hilton, teams have been all year. Teams have done a great job of being able to sniff that out. And he seemed to know every time they were going to blitz early, and he seemed to kill them every time. And that shouldn't have been a surprise going into this.
Yeah, because he's Drew Brees. Of course he's going to know. What is Butler's game plan there? Who comes out with the idea of let's have our DBs blitz the quarterback with the quickest release in football, one of the quickest releases ever, maybe second only to Peyton Manning? What are you going to try to accomplish there? And you're sending Cam Sutton? Cam Sutton is a terrible blitzer. If you're going to send anybody, at least send Hilton. But when you had Sutton on the field, because for some reason Hilton was coming off in situations, Sutton has no chance to get home. So, I mean, Butler adjusted, so that was good, I guess. But I don't know what the idea is in the first place, because blitzing Brees has no chance to work.
And look, I understand you don't just not blitz altogether, but there's a time and place for everything. And with a quarterback like that, and I'd much rather see it go in his face than I would come off the edge.
Yeah, I mean, you could do some safe 4-man pressures, but there are times, I've done the charting for the first half late last night. They sent 6, they sent 7, they sent 6, they sent 5 a bunch of times. They're doing these super heavy blitzes with DBs. They're not getting home, because of course you're not going to get home, and you got receivers running wide open downfield. So, yeah, I don't know what the idea was there, because trying to blitz Drew Brees, I don't know what the numbers say. Maybe the numbers show something else. I'm guessing it doesn't. But I just know intuitively blitzing Drew Brees is not going to win you games.
Were there sacks, 4-man pressures? I think one of them was.
The sacks came in the second half. I don't think they touched Brees in the first half, right?
Right.
So I haven't charted it that far yet. I think the first one was a 4-man pressure.
Okay.
It wasn't a DB coming, I don't think.
All right. What else? What else stuck out?
Just the potential of this offense and just a wasted game. And Ben plays fantastic. Ben and AB really at the top of their games. Ben goes for 380, 3 touchdowns, no picks. AB goes off for 14 catches. How many yards did AB have? 180?
He had
Any other number?
185, 2 touchdowns,
135,
14 receptions on 19 targets.
Yeah, I mean, you play these great offensive games, these great individual offensive performances, and you still lose that one. And that story's been told far too often, both this year and in recent history, of these great individual efforts, and somehow you come away with losses in these games. So, yeah, I don't even know exactly where I want to go here. I think that if you want to start from the start of the game, I mean, that's cool. But I look at that end of the half drive by the Saints and how well they executed to get those 3 points, and obviously 3 points, and end up being the difference in this one.
Yeah, I mean that one really irks. Like I said, when you give that one up and then you turn around because they do get the ball back, to open the second half. I mean, they're already going to get the ball. Just don't give them any points there, and after your touchdown, and it's kind of a. You go into the locker room, I think, feeling a lot better about yourself at that time. But, yeah, I mean, what was it, a little crosser on Kamara and then just up the sideline for 31 yards?
Yeah, they were trying to play the sticks, and they thought Kamara was just going to go out of bounds, and nope, cuts upfield.
All right, so that one definitely hurt. Going back through, geez. What the heck were the Saints trying to do with Taysom Hill out there throwing a deep pass in those situations? To me, they were pressing early. Talking about the Saints. I mean, I don't know why you want to have your backup quarterback come in and try to throw a deep pass in that situation. So they get what they get. The Steelers make them pay for it that way. And to their credit, they drove the field and at least turned that interception into 3 points for Boswell.
Yeah, Boss did from 49 yards out. Boss had a really good game. Now, playing in a dome sure helps. So, that's an element of it. But hopefully that's going to give Boss some confidence going forward because they'll need it Sunday.
All right, the Saints get the ball back, and then that's when the drive, they face a 4th and 1. And then once again, you got a running back like Ingram, and you got a couple of good night and Taysom Hill and all like that. And why are you throwing deep on 4th and 1? I mean, that seems like such a Steelers thing to do in that situation. But to their credit, Breeze kind of escaped pressure out to a little bit to his right, throws down, hit downfield, and they get the worst, one of the worst pass interference calls that you'll probably see in the league this year.
Well, to be fair, that wasn't the plan to go deep. It was nothing else was there. Butler dropped both outside linebackers. He only rushed 3. Vince blitzed, so there was just nothing there for Breeze, and he just kind of threw up a prayer because he knew Vince was closing in, had to get the ball out, and that's what created the PI situation.
And, I wonder if the optical illusion of Kamara first start, because even Hayden had a hand on him, but it was just measuring him.
Yeah, he wasn't pushing him.
Right. And then when the way Kamara half-ass jumped, I guess kind of makes it look like I couldn't get in the air because I was pushed or something. But in fact, the matter was he just knew that ball was not going to be caught by him, in that situation. I wonder how much that optic played in it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they mentioned whoever the official was with the broadcast. It was Steratore or Blandino said that the placement of the back judge might have created a tough angle for him. I don't know. It was still a bad call. But
Blandino goes on to say that because of the way that play played out, that should have been the focal point of 2 officials on that play, and the one with the better one should have came over and basically told the other one that we need to pick that up.
Yeah, it was a terrible call. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just saying, don't shoot the messenger here.
All right, go ahead. The next offensive possession.
Yeah, well, the Steelers, come down the field again. They do get a 30-yard field goal. So they're matching, some points with field goals, which wasn't ideal, but it's better than nothing. So Boz makes a 30-yarder, and then the Saints get the ball back, and they get another touchdown from Alvin Kamara. Just being able to run the football. You get the PI on Burnett there is kind of the big play. Having some trouble covering Michael Thomas in the slot. Seen that story before. One interesting side note I wanted to bring up. We saw the Steelers have a different game plan against the Patriots, do some different stuff in coverage. Against the Saints, there was an interesting approach where the Steelers for the first time that I can remember, truly ran a 4-3 front, where they had 4 defensive linemen in the game, McCullers being the 4th guy with 3 linebackers. So I'm not saying it was effective. It's only used for a handful of snaps, but Steelers running some 4-3.
Yeah, and definitely early.
Yeah, it was on 1st and 10 against like 12 personnel that they brought it in.
Right,
but
right. And,
you saw some different tactics.
Right, and that's because this is a good running football team.
Yeah, one of the best. I think they're better than the numbers show.
And they still were able to run the football pretty good against that front, from what I remember.
Yeah, they had, I forget what the numbers were, but they had some good success. So back to the game, trading punts basically after that, so it's 14-6. Then the Steelers, well, there was just a punting situation. Yeah, this is a legal touch. You wanted to talk about that?
Yeah, boy, and Switzer sometimes this year he makes some weird decisions, does he not? Some things where the old try to fake him out with a fair catch and let the ball hit kind of things. To me, he's made some questionable decisions in some of these. Some of these just secure the ball, I just think, and last night was one of these where I thought he was just trying to play games a little bit too much and take his chances that the ball was going to bounce, into the end zone. Well, they have the one, and then it's down at the Steelers 8, but then they go to commercial, and during commercial they ruled that there was a legal touch on the kick, and you're thinking, oh great, they're going to have to re-kick. Well, then Morstead uncorks one, and it rolls out of bounds at the Steelers' 3-yard line. You're thinking, oh Lord, I mean, it go from bad to worse in that situation.
But the upside is the Steelers probably have one of the league's best backed-up offenses in football. They have 3 95-plus yard touchdown drives this year, which is the most in the NFL. And I thought Fichtner had a brilliant, play call and design for this final drive to shoot up a ton of clock. You're running screens, you're going 5 wide, you're getting the ball to playmakers. Ben did a great job of ad-libbing with AB and Juju, 2 guys that are fantastic when the play breaks down. And so what you do get the touchdown out of it, to Samuels. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's the one to Samuels. I mean, that was a big boy drive, 15 plays, 97 yards in there. And did they overcome a penalty in that drive as well, or no?
Eli Apple got called for PI on 3rd and 9. I'm trying to see if the Steelers got called.
Yeah,
I don't
guess where the Steelers had a penalty on that drive. But I mean, it was a big boy drive for sure, and then a 2-point conversion to Eli Rogers wide open on that as well too. So you're thinking, all right, here you go, 14-14, and not a bad situation to be in, right before the half. But as we said, then you let them get the upper hand and an opportunity to go back to back scores. With allowing Kamara to run up the left sideline.
I mean, it's 2nd and 4 with 15 seconds left, and the Saints have the ball in their own 44 with no timeouts. How do they get points out of that?
Yeah,
how do they settle for a makeable 43-yarder?
Yeah, it really was disappointing on that. And then the opening possession of the second half. Once again, you see them use Kamara and Thomas, and those are their 2 main weapons in this game, and they just march down the field again. And I'll have to go back and look at closely at the sequence there, but I think the big thing there, I think, was that they were 3 for 3 on 3rd downs, and all 3 of those 3rd downs were very, very makeable, staying ahead of the chains type situations, and that they were faced. So in other words, you didn't do a good enough job on 1st and 10 or on 1st and 2nd down that allowed them to have their playbook open to them on 3rd downs, and they converted all of them. And then of course they on the Kamara touchdown, that was the one that is just poor tackling too, I think, from 1 yard out.
Well, I think that one was when he dove over the goal line. The first touchdown was poor tackling. The second one was weird because I think the Steelers were in nickel for some reason, and they left the B gap on the right side wide open, and Hilton's trying to fill it, and it's just a hot mess. But the big play was the second play of the half, the 42-yard completion to Kamara, where he swings out wide and kind of extends it vertical. Davis is trying to hide the coverage, and he's late, and he can't make the tackle, and we're off to the races. So, Sean Davis made some big plays, the interception, a breakup on Michael Thomas, but he also had some bad angles, and that was a terrible miss.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy that's first real year playing that position. You know,
But that was like he was like him playing his strong safety spot because he was down in the box in that play. He's covering a back. That's stuff he would do as a strong safety. He's just got to make that play. He's got
right.
to take a better angle. He's got to, he has to not be so worried about the skies and the coverage that he just can't cover. It kind of defeats the purpose. So, there were some high moments for him, and he played well early in the first half. The second half, there, I thought his play kind of waned.
And this is the point now where you're thinking, is this thing getting away from them? You know,
Yeah.
24-14. Uh, you definitely knew that the Steelers had to answer this drive at that point with a touchdown, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
It was all passes down the field. Down the field they went. This is the one where they did have to overcome the penalty because you had the ineligible downfield pass to Juju that wiped out a 14-yard play to start with. But then it was all Roethlisberger just down the field. A lot of them to Juju in there and AB and. Yeah, a solid drive, 9 plays, 75 yards, 4:25 off the clock.
And that's why you and I don't care too much about run-pass splits. Obviously, you want to run the ball effectively when you do run the football, but no runs on that drive. They didn't run the ball once in the third quarter. They moved the football. They put up points. A great play call to get that little rub between Eli and AB. Saints really struggled with passing things off and communicating correctly on some of those pick and rub routes. They were constantly doubling one guy, leaving another guy wide open. AB got wide open on the touchdown. Juju open for a big catch, I think, the next possession. So, just move the football. Get the ball to your playmakers. That's Ben. That's AB. That's Juju. That's what Randy Fino did in the third quarter.
All right, kind of a turning point at this point. You get back within a field goal here. You're feeling pretty good. You kick the ball off. You get a couple. You get your first. You get your first sack and then followed up with another sack on Breeze on a 3rd and 16. Then they're punting away to you, and you're thinking, okay, well, all right, they're back in this thing, and then, boy, they quickly put this ball back in the end zone. Now, I wasn't too thrilled after the 1st and 10 play, the incomplete deep pass to AB down the right side. That then they take a timeout in that situation, but at least they came out of that timeout, and just a brilliant pass by Ben to AB there down that left seam there in the end zone for the touchdown. Great touch and everything right there.
Yeah, it was a great release, just running a vertical. They're trying to bracket, and again, trying to be a little cute with how they're disguising it by having a safety come in low within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Not going to work. And yeah, I was fine with the timeout. You're in their place. It's a loud environment. It was such a critical drive and a critical moment of the drive being on the 20 that you wanted to get everything right. You can't let a turnover happen. We saw what happened with turnovers in this game as the game kind of ended up. So I was okay with the timeout. It gets you the big play. And again, the Saints had all the focus on AB. AB still made plays. That's why he's best in the world.
All right, then you're on into the fourth quarter. We go, and you're thinking, okay. They got the lead now, and then they get another a 3-and-out to start off the fourth quarter. You feeling pretty?
Burnett made a great play. Burnett made a great play on that third down to break that football up. I've been really critical of Morgan Burnett. He made a great play there.
That was the one on to Kirkwood.
3rd and 2. Yeah, that was like the wheel route where down the right side, and he high pointed and knocked it away.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I got that. You just jogged my memory there. Okay, and then you get the ball back, and you're thinking, okay, they ran the football a little bit because obviously at that point then you want to try to milk a little bit of clock, but at the same time, it's imperative, I think, that you come away with it. You got to keep the hammer down.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when that drive opened, I thought, man, just. Who cares about running here? There's just the start of the fourth quarter. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep moving football. But they did get Samuels went 7-4 and then 9, I think, and then Roethlisberger hit Eli to move the change, and you're right at about midfield on a 1st and 10. Connect with AB again for 11, then Samuels for 7 over on the left-hand side. Samuels again for 1 yard, sets up a 3rd and 2 situation at that point at the New Orleans 34-yard line. And then that's when Stephen Ridley, off right guard, gets the ball punched out.
Yeah, and I know we mentioned it, but as we talked about during the week, top of the show, the Saints defense is so good at knocking the football out. They capitalized again. I didn't like the play call. I still thought Fiedner called a good game overall, but that's the last down you'll see from Stephen Ridley because you needed at least a chance for points there to make it 7, and they couldn't, and that's why the refs were bad. But you look at these plays; these aren't on the refs. These are all things the Pittsburgh can and should have controlled, and they didn't. And that's why you got to blame themselves for this whole mess.
And then you can't help but think, oh Lord, what have they done here? And
Oh yeah,
go ahead.
it's literally the Fitz Toussaint play. I don't know. Did you see the stat that I had comparing Toussaint to Ridley?
Was it the same yard line and whatnot?
Same yard line, the 34-yard line. Toussaint had his fumble with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Ridley with 10:21, and the Steelers were leading in both cases, and both ended up losing the game because of it. So they used these. I guess if you're Fitz Toussaint, you're happy because no one's going to talk about you anymore. They're going to talk about you, Stephen Ridley.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is the sudden change at that point, and then the Saints. You're thinking, man, can they at least get a stop here? And they did. And to their credit, even though the Saints moved the football on that drive, to get the field goal blocked by L.J. Fort in that situation, you're thinking, that's right then when you're thinking, man, they really have to steal a possession, and they did. And you have to capitalize on situations like that. It's almost like a reprieve at that point. All right, you turn the football over. You got it. Even though you didn't really technically get a turnover in that situation, you did because of the block punt. You get the ball back, in decent field position. And then you go, you can't do anything with the football, and then you run the fake punt in that situation. So that decision to fake punt on a 4th and 5 is one that might end up haunting Mike Tomlin for the rest of until the next season starts, maybe. But to the Saints' credit, they answered and went on a long drive after that. And man, you get them in. And look, I get it. People with the pass that want to think that pass interference call on Hayden. Alex and I already talked about it. I thought it was a call, at least holding in that situation. Like we said, I'm gonna have to wait and see, maybe a better angle to see if indeed that ball was tipped, where it was tipped in the process. But the fact of the matter is you still were able to get them into a 1st and 20, then a 2nd and 20, and then a 3rd and 20 situation. Now, albeit Kirkwood gave them one by dropping one, hit them right off the numbers there. And at that point, that would have set up maybe a 3rd and 6 or something?
Maybe 3rd and 4.
3rd and 4, okay. But look, we saw in the Patriots game, the Patriots didn't make all the plays all the time. You're thinking, all right, well, that's the one. 3rd and 20. Surely you're going to be able to get off the force a 4th and whatever here. But then you give up the deep pass to Ted Ginn there, who caught 2 passes all game, both of them deep passes. A guy that just came off IR for them, a guy that's 33 years old. What happened on that play?
I haven't gone back to check it again. I just know the Ginn's wide open over the middle. I don't know how you get that wide open, how you're not playing. It's just a sticks defense, keeping everything in front. I think the Steelers were in zone, and you find the soft spot in zone coverage. But, yeah, and again, I know I've harped on it a ton, but you look at all the issues the Steelers could control that aren't officiating related. 3rd and 20, minute 41 left. You get a stop there. That's likely game. That's just crushing.
It was crushing indeed. And then 2 plays later, they're in the end zone. Did you think Thomas pushed off?
I don't think I saw a clear clip of the actual release. I don't know if I just missed it or what. I was almost happy that they scored though, because you knew the Saints were going to punch it in. Let's just do it with as much time left for Pittsburgh as possible.
I didn't see the blatant push off there. I see Thomas slip initially, then I see kind of Hayden kind of slip. There was some hand fighting there, but I didn't think it was. At no point did I think, oh, they got to call Thomas for pushing off there. You know.
Okay.
But I'm with you. I'm glad. As immediately after that, and how that referee standing right there at the goal line does not rule that a touchdown initially. And I understand some of the confusion. I think it was Mike Pereira says if both feet don't come down in the end zone, in other words, if he's in the air and he catches that and then he's pushed back, then maybe that's not a touchdown. Forget how exactly Mike Pereira explained it, but regardless, you had a feeling they were going to punch that ball in at that point. So why not the sooner? Rather than later, to save you as much time as possible. And then, of course, we get into the in-game situation there. Brown, of course, doesn't help things out getting a false start right off, but he, of course, saves the drive. Him and Ben with the toe tap over there on the left side to help convert a 4th and 15. And honestly, when they converted that 4th and 15, I thought at worst they were going to tie this, tie that game up. But, a few plays later, that's when Juju fumbles and, Juju's crushed and all. I'm not worried about Juju's psyche. He'll be fine, with all this. It's just, very, very, very unfortunate play to that results in a loss here.
Yeah, and a heck of a play by Sheldon Rankins, their D tackle, dropping the coverage on that play. They do that a lot with him, and he kind of got blindsided. Juju's on top of whoever tackled him, Davis or whoever was trying to bring him down, and really never had a chance to go down. He was trying to go down, just kind of was rolling on top of bodies. But, yeah, you got to have good ball security. I mean, it's a tough play. He'll bounce back. Like you say, he's a really mentally tough guy. He's bounced back from bad plays and bad moments before. But, yeah, you at least have the chance to tie. If you get there, you're at the New Orleans 35 is where he fumbled. So that's a 52-yarder from there with still time left. So you're probably going to attempt, worst-case scenario, a field goal, somewhere between 45 and 50 yards. And Boswell already hit from 49. He could definitely make that.
All right, Alex, all that money that you're going to get from your in-laws or whatnot, and, all that cash that you're about to rack up here at Christmas time. Bowl season is here, Alex, and it's time to get in on the action with MyBookie. Don't be that guy or gal with no rooting interest as your relatives or friends sit around watching the game. You know what? The Christmas card industry must be dying because either that or I don't have any friends. Don't be that guy or gal without any rooting interest as your relatives or friends sit around watching the game. Not this year when there is a record 41 bowl games to bet on, including a national championship game on January 7th. It really is the most wonderful time of the year. Make sure.
How are you singing today?
Yeah.
Look, Christmas spirit.
The thing is, and you can attest to this, the longer that you do this thing, and you almost become desensitized with covering this team. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Steelers fan. I hope they win every game, all like that. But I don't know. You're able to draw a line down the middle of this thing sometimes, and I don't get worked up near as much as I used to, years ago before I started doing what I do now. But I guess that's how I'm able to do it. I'm able to, life goes on, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're ready for the daily action by signing up at mybookie.ag today. They pay fast when you win. Ownership really cares about good customer service, and they offer the craziest props on the internet. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. And if you want to make money during bowl season, you got to go to MyBookie. I trust them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out for yourself. Join now. MyBookie will offer you a 50% deposit bonus to make sure you have a nice bankroll for the bowl season. In order to get that deposit bonus, use promo code TERRIBLE when you deposit to activate the offer. That's promo code TERRIBLE at MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, coming out of this, another crushing loss, and boy, when you look at these last several games, just think. I mean, this time next week, Alex, you and I could be right into talking about free agent status. We could be talking about salary cap. We could be talking about draft needs and all like that. I mean, it's gotten pretty dire here, and it's pretty, it's pretty black and white. And for those of you that have not seen, they have moved both the Steelers game and the Browns game against the Ravens to the later times. That's not over.
420, 425, right?
Right. 425. That's not overly surprising with sort of the mini drama involved here with the division and all. But it's pretty, cutting cut and dry here. The Steelers need to beat Cincinnati, and they need to hope that the Browns can upset the Ravens. Or I guess the other "or" in there is you need to beat the Bengals and have the Titans and the Colts tie, which I'm not going to hold my breath for that to happen.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Put a number on it, Dave. What are the odds the Steelers make the playoffs? Put a percentage.
Geez, I mean, not good at all. I will say this. I think the Browns match up okay with the Ravens, for whatever that's worth. Especially, look, the Ravens have struggled at times, to score points. And this is a good Browns defense. This is a Browns offense that hasn't played bad at all. And, when you got nothing to lose, you kind of let it all hang out. And they've kind of, we've seen Baker Mayfield kind of go through a mini maturation process, if you will. Now, make no mistake about it, the Ravens have the best defense in the league, at least in my opinion.
Mine too.
Here, so that that's going to be tough, obviously. But I will not be shocked if Cleveland knocks them off here. So, I think, and that's dangerous here, I think the Steelers should be able to take care of the Bengals fairly easily. But, of course, we thought they'd take care of the Raiders fairly easily several weeks ago as well. I'll put it at 30% chance for the Steelers to get in.
I'm similar. I bet about 25%, 90% chance of the Steelers beating the Bengals, 30% chance the Browns beat the Ravens. Now, if you want some optimism, we'll end on maybe a high note here. The Browns beat the Ravens the first matchup, 12-9 in overtime, so they've literally beaten them this year. Now, both teams are pretty different now. Lamar Jackson starting for Baltimore, and this was still with the Hugh Jackson, led Cleveland Browns team. So can the Browns win? Yes. But that Ravens team is so good, that defense is just playing out of their mind. Even without forcing turnovers, they're just straight up talented, and they just get stops, and they force punts. So it'll be tough, and it just sucks that this team now does not control their own. They've controlled their destiny for the back half of the year from 7-2 on, and now they don't control their destiny in the 1 week that you want to control your destiny. And you can blame all the reasons for the Saints game, but you also look at the Denver loss, Chargers loss, Raiders loss, Cleveland tie, Chiefs loss. If one of those things changes for the better, we're having a much different story right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to circle those 3 games right in there with the Denver, the Chargers, and the Raiders, and of course go back into the tie to start of the season there. But it just goes, what are your thoughts about this? We talked all season about. We're going to get a better idea about where this defense is after this slew of games. To me, they failed the test. I mean, yeah, they played good against the Patriots there, but it's not the same Patriots team. I mean, it's not the same Patriots team that we thought it would be at the start of the season. To me, there's not much. Yeah, it's Brady. And all that, but I mean, do you really are you really thumping your chest real hard because you beat the Patriots in your own backyard? Now, I mean, where are your thoughts on this defense now that they've gone through this string of games that we were wondering about?
It's the same thought and the same concern I had at the start of the year is where are the playmakers? Where are the guys that are going to produce the big time, big moment play, steal a possession kind of stuff? Because the way offenses operate in 2018, they can move the football so effectively that unless you have an insanely talented defense like Baltimore, and newsflash, the Steelers do not have that, you're going to need those playmakers, and specifically in the secondary. Like, we get really excited about one interception by Sean Davis, which was a good play, but it was his first turnover created of the entire season. Dude hasn't missed a snap this year. So that's what we get excited about, and that's how below the bar has been set for this defense. So that's the number one mindset I have going into it, regardless of what position you want to upgrade. And there are many to upgrade. You have to find guys that are capable of making big impact plays.
And look, that whole 6-game winning streak, and I mean, it was all, I hate to use the term smoke and mirrors, but you know, that's what it was. I mean, you're beating some inferior teams there. I thought, really the only thing that you can pump your chest about during that stretch, I think, was that win over the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they weren't facing the teams that they're facing now.
And then look, I mean, look how close you came to to another loss to the Jaguars. And look, you know what they call almost losses. They call those wins.
Losses. Oh yeah, wins. Yeah.
But I mean, you turn around in the Broncos. Jeez, I mean, the Chargers. You had that game. I mean, you had that game against the Chargers, and then the one with the Raiders. I mean, we're going to be talking about we're probably going to be talking most of the offseason about the decision to not put Roethlisberger back in that game. After he came out of the locker room there. That was a big faux pas. I mean, the coaching hasn't been great. I mean, there's no two ways around it. The coaching and decisions this year have not been great. And, do I think that Tomlin's going to lose his job? No, I do not. Do I think there's going to be changes defensively? Yeah. But let me tell you, if you're gonna make changes defensively, I would like to see them make a lot of changes defensively.
Well, we can save that for next week. I mean, I'm really interested to get your thoughts on that, but I guess we'll see how the season plays out. So you do think there will be some coaching changes?
Yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to do it on the defensive side of the ball, and not just one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll have plenty of time to lament over this when we get back on it on Wednesday. I'm not sure if we're going to even need a beat writer this week. We'll see if we can get Paul Daner to come in, but I'm sure he's not going to be too excited to talk about a Bengals team that has one game left. Here we'll see if we can get him in. If not, we'll further, and regardless, we'll break down this Saints game even more on Wednesday. And kind of go from there. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. We'll get into, I think we got a handful of emails in since the game ended. We'll get into some of those on Wednesday as well, too. Have a very, very Merry Christmas. And we certainly do appreciate our listenership on the show and all. And just have a safe holiday, if you will. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.